Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of the Articulate Flower, back with another Southwest Virginia fishing report with Matt Reilly. How you doing, Matt?
Doing great, Marvin. How are you?
As always, just trying to stay out of trouble, and I thought you were going to tell me you were slightly frozen. It's gotten a little bit cool in your part of the world.
Oh, it definitely has. Somebody turned the air conditioning on a couple days ago. We've had a couple big cold fronts this month already, but we went from overnight lows in like the 40s and 50s last week to overnight lows in the mid 20s the last couple of days. So things have definitely cooled down quite a bit. Things are changing, and that's what we're kind of name of the game right now is the grab bag time of year. We're smallmouth fishing, starting to think about musky, doing more trout and streamer fishing, and kind of all of the above. So it's definitely fixing to change here.
Yeah, and I do know too, probably towards the end of the weekend, things are going to come back, and it's going to be cool, but it's going to be normal cool, right?
Yeah, we're going to get back to probably highs in around 70 or up in the 60s, overnight lows in 40s and 50s, maybe high 30s, which is pretty normal. I would say this has been already one of the cooler Octobers in the last couple of years. Our water temperatures now, remember last October, about right now, we had water temperatures on the smallmouth rivers in the mid 60s, and we hit 50 degrees this morning with the couple of nights of real cold overnight. So we're going to come back up a little bit, but I'd say we're definitely a little bit slower than we were the last couple of years.
Yeah. And so on the smallmouth front, when you get that cold bump, do the fish kind of sulk a little bit and then have to normalize, or do they just kind of keep that perpetual movement towards their wintering holes?
They definitely do sulk a little bit. I mean, they're at the moment, I would say, I hate to be negative, but I would say the bite this fall so far has been somewhat disappointing. I've had a couple of really good days, but a few, with some of these big hard cold fronts, it's been it takes them a while to adjust to that. It'll knock the bite back a little bit, and things will get good again as we warm up. But we've had two real hard ones in a row, so they're still feeding. They still have to feed because winter's coming. And kind of the name of the game, oddly enough, when I go to the river this time of year and we're starting the day out with pretty cold temperatures, I'm either thinking about fishing, pretty slow on the bottom to spots that I know there to be fish holed up in, or we're covering water and fishing pretty aggressively, pretty noisily, and kind of trying to trigger something. So there's two approaches that I utilize this time of year, and those are it. And it kind of just depends on how you want to fish, and sometimes conditions make one or the other hard. So the last couple of days, we've had a lot of wind associated with these cold fronts, and the rivers have been super leafy, and so that can take certain presentations just out of the playbook entirely, because you're just fishing topwater stuff. You're potentially just snagging weed or leaves constantly, and so that kind of dictates what we're doing this time of year too.
Yeah, got it. And I know it's early, but I know reports, I think the last time I talked to Ethan, they were getting good musky eats on the James. What are you seeing where you are?
Oh, I'm sure. I have this week, next couple of days, going to be my first couple of, musky program endeavors. We're kind of switching gears with the colder weather a little bit. but I would say certainly just looking at conditions, with the cooler water. I think anytime you get a cold snap in the fall, those fish that are geared a little bit colder, like trout and muskie, they get excited, while the smallmouth, the more kind of warm water geared fish, sulk a little bit. So I would expect the fish to be fairly, chasey and excited, but we're definitely going to be dealing with some low water, because we also have low clear water across the region. So that's not an abnormal thing to deal with this time of year, but what that means is there's just more lights on everything. You can see them and they can see you. So using tactics that kind of try to force fish to eat away from the boat and that kind of thing are going to be important for the next couple of weeks, probably.
Yeah, and I know when you say that, is it low enough? Like, I know sometimes when it's really low, you won't even bother to figure eight because your cover's blown well before they ever get that close to the boat.
I would say that's it kind of depends on where you are, depth of water, ambient light, and angle of sun, all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I think you're pretty spot on. If you get a fish, if you're in 3 feet, 4 or 5 feet of water that's gin clear and everything's sunlit, the likelihood of converting a fish that follows to the boat is pretty unlikely. It's probably, it's always worth doing some kind of boat side maneuver, because as maybe unlikely as it is, I've seen it happen a bunch where fish either notice your fly or kind of use the boat to ambush a fly or a lure. You won't see anything coming in behind your fly, and you do a figure eight and the fish comes out from underneath the boat and eats it. So it's always worth doing something. But like I said, if you can help it, using things like speed to try to get a fish to commit well away from the boat is definitely going to put a lot more fish in the boat right now.
Yeah, got it. And I got an interesting question for you too from Grant. He wanted to know, if you can fish topwater for fall muskie, and if so, if there's a window where that tactic's effective more often than not.
That is a good question, and I would say you definitely can. Gear guys do it a lot with various prop baits and stuff like that. I do not do that much at all. I'll throw occasionally, if I'm fishing conventional gear, I'll throw something like a big whopper plopper or a big jitterbug or something like that. And that'll work. It's definitely, kind of take a similar approach to it that I kind of employ smallmouth fishing. If you've got low water, it's fairly warm, so it's warm enough for them to be, pretty actively chasing and utilizing shallow water. I think it can definitely be done. So it's probably an early fall, late summer kind of thing, September into October and maybe early November, but it's definitely going to be, like anything else, again, like the smallmouth, if we've got real low clear water, even if the water's colder, it's probably still viable. If the fish are living in 3 feet of water, there's not a whole lot of difference between eating on the surface and eating subsurface, a foot or two above their heads, because they pretty regularly eat above them. So, I would say definitely give it a shot. Just try, don't chuck it into the mat of leaves up against the bank right now, because it's probably going to drive you nuts.
Yeah, there you go. And folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can DM us on social media. You can email them to us, whatever is easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag. I'll enter a drawing for something cool from Matt at the end of the season. And as we're starting to turn the lights off on smallmouth and move into musky, how can folks reach out to you, Matt, and get on your calendar and go fishing?
Yeah, everything is on my website. It's mattreillyflyfishing.com. And like I said, the next several months are kind of grab bag fishing. We're doing everything from, wade fishing in the mountains for trout, streamer fishing on the tailwaters for bigger brown trout, musky fishing. It's kind of, we've got a lot of options. So any of those programs sound interesting to you, feel free to reach out and we'll get you on the water.
Yeah, well, there you go. And as I always say, folks, fall is my favorite time to be on the water, and you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Matt.
Thanks, Marvin.